What's going on, everybody? This is Paul from Prior Witness. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. Excited to come on camera for this one for a little bit. So I want to talk about the differences in cabinets real quick. I just want to show you 3 tracks from the same amp over and over again. And after the tracks, we'll nerd out a little bit. Bottom line up front for this video is that changing out cabinets can have a much more dramatic effect to your tone than if you were just to switch out amps or something else. It's something I wish was talked about way more. Let's get started. We'll go through this. Alrighty, well, let's get into it. I'm trying to keep this video under 10 minutes, no more than 15. So just a few points I want to get across to you. So first and foremost, the guitar cab is one of the most important aspects to your guitar tone, and it's something I wish someone had told me years and years and years ago. But the other one is the second point I want to get across as we're going through this, is that changing amps has a much less of an impact than you think it does to your guitar tone. And when I say that, I'm talking apples to apples. I'm talking from this context, we're looking at high gain. So your dual rectifiers, your 5150s, your angles, your diesels. We all can acknowledge that they all have certain characteristics about them that do make them different. That's why we prefer one amp over the other. But my argument here is that if you are looking at just high gain amps and you want to change out your tone because something's just not working, it's probably not the amp. Look at your guitar cabinet, look at the IRs that you're using. Think about maybe changing those out instead or going to a different one. Another aspect that I want you to think about as we go through this, and I'll dive into this much later in the video, and that is they're just cheaper. Cabinet IRs are generally cheaper. And I'll show you what I mean at the end of this video. I'm going to take you through some websites that I personally use, I like to use, and just show you how much stuff costs. It's pretty cheap as opposed to changing out an amp sim, which can be a much more bigger investment. So let's get through it. I want to take you through this track, and you heard 3 different variations of the exact same amp going through different sets of guitar speakers. I'm using, for the most part, we're using Torpedo Notes Wall of Sound to achieve these tones. I'll walk you through what's going on in here. So I've got an emulation of a Marshall cabinet. It's a 1960 Alpha blended with a VHT 4x12 cabinet with P50 speakers in there. I think these are just G12T speakers, okay. And then let's look at the other ones. Then the next track that we were using got a little bit more funky stuff going on. I'm using the Angle Franken cab. It's got some weird, they're like red speakers, red volt, claret, or redback. Thank you, redback. I just needed to read it there for a second. And those are being blended with a Victory copper 2x12. That's got the Celestian Gold Alnicos in there. Just for something random and fun, you know, just to change it up. Also just to kind of further emphasize my point. And then finally, I want to talk to some IRs that I'm using. And to do that, it's probably heresy, but what are you going to do? Just a dumb old fart from Kansas City doing this. But I've got the Neural DSP 2C Plus suite. I'm basically using it as a glorified IR loader. And what I've got going on here is I've got the 2x12 Zilla blend mix number 2 from York Audio, and that's what you heard in the third one. So that's a little nerdy now for you. And then we've got the bass and the drums going along with it. Don't really care too much about that. Now that we've nerded out a little bit and I've shown you what's going on inside those tracks, I want to take you in a little different direction. I'm going to show you what happens, okay, when we switch from the first amp, which, by the way, the first amp is a Rev G3 going into a Fender Clean amp that's being emulated on the Ampero 2 Stomp. Just a quick little picture there for you on the screen. What's going on there? That's what this track is. The next track, I've got the Fort and Cali suite on. Those are the settings there for your ears and eyes. Ears later, because you can't use your ears now, but eyes now. That's what's going on there. And then I've got that running into the Torpedo Wall of Sound, and we're using the exact same speaker setup from the first track. Just keep that in mind. We changed amps, going into different speakers. Listen to the difference, okay? And we'll do it in the mix and then without the mix. And here we go. All right, now we'll do it without. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say, look, there's no difference. Of course there's a difference, right? Of course there's a difference. But it's subtle. It's subtle, right? When I compare it to what's going on, same amp, different tracks. So, again, you're seeing that there's a massive difference. And my definition of a massive difference is that between tones. The difference were pretty subtle. Obviously, there was some different variations in how the mid frequency was responding to those speakers, right? If you want to get super nerdy, there is going to be a subtle difference there, but it's subtle, you know. And definitely in the mix, it's even harder to hear that difference. Without the mix, it's a lot easier to hear that difference, obviously, because you don't have all that crap going on. But, you know, at the end of the day, my point again to you is, look, if you're not getting the tone that you want, fiddle around with the speakers, man. Just fiddle around with them, change out IRs, something to think about, right? I mean, you don't necessarily have to go in there and tweak a bunch of knobs and all that crap to get where you want to go. Okay. So hopefully you learned something there. Now, if you stick around with me, I'm going to get this around to my third point, which is guitar cabinets are generally cheaper than you would if you were to just go buy a brand new amp. So I got some stuff pulled up here on my lovely browser, which you see. I'm not endorsed by any of these guys or anything, okay? Come on. I'm a little guy here, so but I just wanted to show you, to impress upon you. This is York Audio. This is their collection. And just take note of some of these prices, $15, $20, you know. And these are high-quality stuff. And I found this through another YouTuber. Forgive me, I forgot his name. It's like Supermassive or something. Good guy. Got me hooked on these. So I use these a lot. This was my other foray into amp cabs. But this is Bogren Digital. If I scroll down here, they're running a sale right now. So let me switch it to USD for consistency's sake. So these are their amp sims. So, I mean, you could spend $80 on a amp sim bundle or $40, and this is all on sale, by the way, right? And then if we keep scrolling, just keep scrolling, here's some of their IR packs, and I can tell you, I've bought a few of these, like the Jens Bogren Digital IR pack. This is going for $31, okay? And that's on sale. I could have sworn they've been cheaper before. Like I've paid less than that. But the point is, you can get some pretty good deals. Here's 2 Notes Audio. Things get a little bit more crazy with these guys because it's not like a regular IR where you can just dump it into like your Line 6 or your Ampero 2 Stomp or something like that. You got to use their hardware if you want to use it in a live gig. But if you got the software, the Torpedo Notes, that's where you find this stuff. And these are just packs. And I don't know how well that's coming across your screen, but you got for several different speakers, you got $24, $33. And these are packs. For individual cabinets, like they're running a sale right now. You can buy these for about $7 a pop. And of course, my internet craps out on me while I'm trying to show this stuff to you. Yeah, here we go. I'll just click on a random guy here. Wow, this is just slow, guys. Sometimes your internet just does not want to do what it wants you to do. That's okay. Hopefully I made my point. And at the end of the day, again, it's all about options, right? It's about exploring new ideas. It's about exploring new ways of getting tone. And hopefully I showed you something that gets you thinking a little bit more if you didn't really think about this. Because, again, a lot of us probably already knew this, but if I was talking to younger me at like 17 or 20, gosh, I wish I would have known this. I wish somebody would have told me that your guitar speaker probably needs an upgrade. And it took me a long time to understand that. It makes a big difference in how your guitar sounds. Now, look, I will end the video with this. I'm not saying that your amp doesn't make a difference, because it does. But your guitar cabinet, your IR that you're using, sure as heck does. It makes a big difference, and I hope this demonstration shows that. Rock on, take care. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day. Hope you learned something, and we'll see you around next time. Thanks, guys.